The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Marcus Aurelius. We live in a world where people say, love yourself, yet no one teaches you how to actually do it. And somewhere along the way, you are led to believe that self-love is something you earn only when someone chooses you, approves of you, or stays by your side. But there is a quieter truth. You cannot love yourself while abandoning yourself. Most people don't lack love. They lack alignment. They act against their own values, stay in rooms where they shrink, and tolerate things that betray their inner standards. And every time they do, a piece of self-respect fades. Stoicism offers a different doorway. It teaches that self-love is not a feeling you wait for, but a discipline you practice. It's the quiet courage to choose what strengthens you rather than what validates you. It's the decision to build a life where your worth is not borrowed from anyone else. When you stop asking the world to value you, you finally begin to value yourself. In this video, we will explore 8 Stoic habits that rebuild your inner foundation, restore your self-respect, and help you finally love yourself without needing anyone to complete you. If you're ready, take a breath and enter this with intention. Comment below, I choose myself. 1. Live by virtue. You cannot love yourself while living beneath your own standards. Most people don't lose self-love in a single moment. They lose it quietly, inch by inch, every time they do something that contradicts who they know they could be. You feel it when you break a promise to yourself, when you silence your truth to please others, or when you act out of fear instead of integrity. And deep down, you know exactly when you betray your own values. The world might not notice it, but your soul always does. Stoicism teaches that self-love is not found in compliments, achievements, or affirmations. It is found in living as someone you're proud to meet in the mirror every morning. Virtue becomes the backbone of that version of you. Wisdom guides your choices. Courage carries you through discomfort. Temperance keeps you steady. And justice ensures that your actions align with a deeper moral center. When your decisions reflect these principles, something powerful happens. You begin to trust yourself again. You begin to respect yourself again. And self-respect always arrives before self-love. The truth is simple. Your heart cannot fully open to you until your behavior stops harming you. Living by virtue is not about perfection. It's about choosing, moment by moment, to act in a way that strengthens the relationship you have with yourself. It's the quiet discipline of keeping your word even when no one is watching. It's walking away from what diminishes you, even if staying would be easier. It's choosing what is right over what is convenient, because the person you become afterward matters more than the moment you are in now. There is a specific kind of peace that appears when your actions finally match your values. A groundedness, a clarity, a sense of coming home to yourself. Self-love begins the moment you refuse to abandon your principles for comfort, approval, or fear. When you live by virtue, you don't just love yourself. You become someone impossible not to love. 2. Focus on what you control. Your peace disappears the moment you try to control what was never yours. So much of the pain people carry comes from giving their power to things they can't influence. Someone's mood ruins their day. Someone's opinion shakes their confidence. Someone's distance makes them question their worth. And without realizing it, their entire emotional world becomes a hostage to circumstances outside themselves. Stoicism teaches a radical shift. It invites you to draw an invisible line in your mind and place everything on one of 2 sides. What belongs to you and what does not. Your thoughts, your actions, your choices, your standards. These are yours. The reactions of others, the outcomes you hope for, the judgments you fear, these never were. You suffer most when you fight battles that were never assigned to you. When you stop chasing control over people and situations, your energy comes flooding back to you. You begin to care less about the noise outside and more about the integrity inside. You stop asking, "Why are they doing this to me?" and instead ask, "What is the best response I can choose right now?" This one shift restores more self-love than any amount of reassurance from others ever could. There is a powerful kind of freedom that emerges when you release what isn't yours to hold. You stop overthinking conversations that have already ended. You stop trying to manage how people see you. You stop negotiating your value through someone else's lenses, and what remains is the space to finally breathe as yourself. Loving yourself becomes easier when you stop outsourcing your peace. Every time you redirect your focus inward, you strengthen the foundation of who you are. Every time you let go of things outside your control, you reclaim a piece of your self-respect. And every time you choose action over worry, you teach your mind that it is capable, grounded, and worthy. You cannot love yourself while handing the keys of your emotional world to anyone else. Bring your attention home. Reclaim what is yours. Let the rest fall where it may. Self-love grows naturally in the space where unnecessary control dies. 3. Emotional mastery. You cannot love yourself while being controlled by what you feel. Most people think their emotions are the truth. If a feeling is loud, they believe it. If anxiety appears, they obey it. If sadness rises, they assume something is wrong with them, and with each reaction, they lose a little more trust in their ability to handle life. Stoicism teaches something far more liberating. It reminds you that emotions are signals, not commandments. They are weather patterns moving through your mind, not identities carved into your soul. You can observe them without becoming them. You can respond without collapsing into them. The moment you name a feeling, you take away its power to control you. When you pause before reacting, you create a space where choice becomes possible again. That space is where dignity lives. That space is where self-respect begins to grow. And that space is where you discover that emotional mastery is not suppression. It is awareness. There is a calm strength in choosing your response instead of surrendering to your first impulse. It allows you to walk away from unnecessary conflict instead of feeding it. It allows you to protect your energy instead of bleeding it into people who don't value it. It allows you to stay grounded even when everything around you feels unstable. And in that groundedness, self-love starts to root itself deeply. Your emotions are visitors. They are not rulers. When you observe them with clarity, you begin to see their patterns. Fear shows up when you're stepping into something meaningful. Anger rises when a boundary is crossed. Sadness appears when your heart is telling you something matters. None of these feelings makes you weak. They make you human. The strength is in not letting them dictate your identity. You are the one who chooses what comes next. You're the one who decides the meaning of the moment. You're the one who stays steady while the waves rise and fall. Emotional mastery is self-love in action. Because every time you choose awareness over reaction, you choose yourself. 4. Premeditatio Malorum. Peace belongs to the mind that expects difficulty, not the one that fears it. Most people collapse under hardship not because they are weak, but because they never prepared their mind for the reality that life will challenge them. They hope everything goes smoothly, and when life doesn't follow the script, they interpret the disruption as failure. They think adversity means something is wrong with them rather than something normal within life. And that misunderstanding destroys self-trust. Stoicism offers a wiser approach. It teaches you to mentally rehearse the obstacles of life before they arrive. Not to become pessimistic, but to become steady. When you imagine potential setbacks, you soften the shock they would normally bring. When you picture yourself responding with clarity, you strengthen the belief that you are capable. Preparation becomes a form of self-respect. Anticipating difficulty makes you stronger, not colder. When you spend a moment each day contemplating what might challenge you, your mind learns to meet discomfort with readiness instead of panic. You might imagine a conversation that could become tense, a disappointment that could sting, or an unexpected delay that could test your patience. By seeing these possibilities in advance, you train your reactions before reality demands them. Your emotional world becomes less reactive, more intentional. There is a deep comfort in knowing that no matter what comes, you have already faced it within your mind. You no longer fear outcomes you cannot control. You no longer feel blindsided by life's unpredictability. You no longer view stress as a sign that you're failing. Instead, you see it as proof that you are alive and capable of handling more than you once believed. Self-love grows when you stop expecting life to be easy and start preparing yourself to be strong. This practice doesn't eliminate adversity. It transforms your relationship with it. You learn to meet difficulty with groundedness. You learn to meet uncertainty with courage. You learn to meet the day with a calm that comes from inner training. When you prepare your mind, you protect your heart. And when your heart feels protected, loving yourself becomes natural. 5. Radical self-honesty. You cannot love yourself if you keep lying to yourself. Most people don't struggle because they are incapable. They struggle because they refuse to look directly at their own patterns. They avoid the truth about their habits, their fears, their contradictions. And the longer they avoid it, the further they drift from themselves. Avoidance feels safe in the moment, but it quietly erodes self-respect. Stoicism asks for something braver. It asks you to look inward without flinching, to examine your actions with clarity, not judgment, to face the parts of yourself you've been avoiding and meet them with responsibility instead of shame. Honesty becomes a kind of inner cleansing. What you refuse to face will continue to control you. There is a quiet power in sitting down at the end of the day and telling yourself the truth. You acknowledge what you did well because self-love is not blindness to your strengths. You acknowledge where you fell short because growth requires seeing the gap. You explore the emotions that rose during the day and the deeper beliefs hiding underneath them. You end with gratitude and one intention for tomorrow, allowing progress to stay continuous and compassionate. This kind of honesty doesn't break you. It rebuilds you. It reconnects you with your values. It strengthens your integrity. It makes you someone you can trust. And trust is the foundation of any meaningful love, including the one you offer yourself. Facing the truth is an act of love, not punishment. When you stop running from your inner world, you finally meet the real you, not the version shaped by fear, ego, or insecurity, but the version shaped by clarity. And clarity brings gentleness, clarity brings direction, clarity brings freedom. Radical self-honesty is not about perfection, it's about liberation. It frees you from the weight of self-deception. It frees you from repeating the same cycles. It frees you to become someone you respect deeply. When you dare to tell yourself the truth, you permit yourself to grow. 6. Voluntary discomfort. Comfort is the enemy of self-respect. People often wonder why they feel weak, easily shaken, or disconnected from their own strength. They blame their circumstances, their past, or their lack of confidence. But the real reason is simpler. They've stopped doing hard things. They've forgotten what they're capable of. And when you forget your strength, you forget your worth. Stoicism teaches that self-love is built through disciplined struggle, not endless ease. When you intentionally choose mild discomfort, you train your mind to stop fearing life. Whether it's cold exposure, a moment of silence, a difficult conversation, or choosing the harder path instead of the convenient one, every intentional challenge whispers the same message. You are stronger than you think. Discomfort becomes a teacher, a mirror, a forge. Every time you do something difficult on purpose, you rebuild your respect for yourself. There is something powerful in knowing you can sit with discomfort without collapsing. You learn that craving convenience has been limiting you. You learn that resilience grows only when you stop protecting yourself from every minor hardship. You learn that strength is not given, it is practiced. and once practiced, it becomes a part of who you are. Self-love thrives where resilience lives. When you train your body and mind to withstand small difficulties, big difficulties lose their power to intimidate you. You stop doubting yourself so easily. You stop relying on others to save you from challenges. You stop collapsing into fear when life becomes unpredictable. And in that grounded stability, your inner respect expands. If you want to feel proud of yourself, do things that make you proud. Voluntary discomfort is not about suffering. It's about choosing growth over stagnation. It's about proving to yourself day by day that you are capable of more than comfort allows. It's about stepping into difficulty so you never fear it again. When you train your strength, you uncover your dignity. When you uncover your dignity, you remember your worth. And when you remember your worth, loving yourself becomes unavoidable. 7. Learn to say no. Every time you say yes to something that drains you, you say no to yourself. Most people don't realize how much of their suffering comes from the inability to refuse. They stretch themselves thin, trying to be agreeable, trying to be liked, trying to avoid disappointing others, and in the process, they abandon their own needs, their own energy, their own boundaries. Self-love cannot survive in a life where yes is given out of fear instead of intention. There is a quiet exhaustion that grows in the life of someone who cannot say no. They feel overwhelmed but pretend they are fine. They feel resentful but stay silent. They feel unseen yet continue to give more, hoping someone will eventually notice their loyalty and repay it. But that repayment rarely comes. The world rarely rewards the person who never stops sacrificing themselves. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. Stoicism reminds us that boundaries are not walls. They are forms of self-respect. They are the lines you draw around your time, your energy, your emotional capacity, and your peace. Saying no is not selfish. It is strategic. It protects you from slowly dissolving into the expectations of others. It keeps your inner world intact. There is a moment in everyone's life when they realize that constantly saying yes is a form of self-betrayal. It doesn't make you noble. It doesn't make you kind. It only makes you vanish in slow motion. No one can love themselves while disappearing for everyone else. If you don't protect your time, someone else will use it for you. When you start observing your daily commitments, you begin to see how many of them do not serve your growth. You notice the conversations that leave you emptier, the favors that pull you away from your priorities, the environments that drain your clarity, and the people who take your yes as an unending resource rather than an intentional choice. This awareness changes something inside you. You begin to ask a different question. Does this align with the person I'm trying to become? If the answer is no, your response should also be no. Not out of cruelty, not out of avoidance, but out of loyalty to the life you are building. Self-love is impossible without self-loyalty. There is a powerful transformation that happens the first time you say no without apologizing. You feel a rush of clarity, a reminder that your life belongs to you. You feel the weight of unnecessary obligations fall away. You feel the strength of choosing yourself instead of choosing fear. And for the first time, you realize that boundaries are liberating, not limiting. People who fear saying no often imagine disastrous outcomes. They think others will be offended, disappointed, or angry. But in reality, the people who value you will respect your boundaries. The people who exploit you will resist them. And this distinction alone is worth more than any forced yes you could ever offer. When you say no with clarity and calm, you send a message to the world. My time matters. My energy matters. I matter. Stoicism teaches that your life should be steered by principle, not pressure. Each yes should reinforce your values, not erode them. Each commitment should reflect your goals, not distance you from them. Each boundary should strengthen your identity instead of scattering it. Learning to say no is learning to choose wisely. It is seeing your time as a finite resource. It is recognizing that peace is not something you stumble into. It is something you protect. It is allowing yourself to live a life that nurtures you rather than drains you. The moment you stop giving yourself away, you begin returning to yourself. And when you return to yourself, self-love becomes not just possible, but inevitable. Because a person who honors their boundaries becomes someone they can finally trust, and someone they can finally love. 8. Morning reflection. Your morning is the front door of your soul. Most people don't realize this, but the way you enter the day becomes the way the day enters you. If your first moments are frantic, your mind becomes frantic. If your first thoughts are chaotic, your decisions follow that chaos. And if your first instinct is to reach for distractions, your inner world becomes scattered before you've even had a chance to breathe. There is a quiet tragedy in how easily we wake up and abandon ourselves. We open our eyes and immediately hand our peace to notifications, messages, demands, and comparisons. We let the world speak to us before we have spoken to ourselves, and without noticing it, we start the day already behind, already overwhelmed, already disconnected from who we want to be. How you begin shapes everything that follows. Stoicism teaches that the morning is not just a time of day, it is a ritual of identity. A daily reminder that you are the one steering your inner world. A practice that roots you before life begins to move you. The Stoics believed that a person who wins the first hour wins the entire day. But winning that hour does not require a complex routine. It requires intention. It requires presence. It requires the courage to begin from within instead of beginning in reaction to everything outside of you. There is something deeply powerful about waking up and choosing silence before stimulation. You let your mind land before it runs. You give your thoughts space before the world fills them. You reconnect with your breath, the one rhythm that has been loyal to you through every storm. And in that softness, you begin to remember yourself. Before the world tells you who you should be, decide who you will be. Morning reflection is the moment you step into alignment. It's where you remind yourself of what you can control today and what you must release. It's where you return to virtue before returning to responsibility. It's where you set the tone for how you will meet discomfort, temptation, desire, expectation, and uncertainty. It's where self-discipline becomes self-respect. When you greet the morning with clarity, you build a foundation the world cannot shake. You become less reactive and more rooted, less overwhelmed and more intentional, less at the mercy of events and more guided by inner principle. This is the soil where self-love grows. Self-love begins with self-guidance. In the quiet of the morning, you see your life without distortion. You notice the habits that help you, the habits that harm you, and the fears that keep trying to claim ownership over your decisions. You see the thoughts that carried you yesterday and choose which ones deserve to follow you into today. You gain the ability to shape your inner weather before stepping into the outer world. The morning becomes a sanctuary, a place where you return to yourself before returning to your responsibilities. A place where you reconnect with your values instead of drifting through the day on autopilot. A place where you set your emotional posture for whatever may come. A place where strength is rehearsed before it is required. The mind you bring into the day becomes the life you live through the day. Give yourself a moment to breathe without rushing. Let your eyes settle without screens. Let your heart speak without interruption. Let your intuition rise without noise. Let your intentions form before your obligations pull you away. There is a kind of peace that belongs only to the early hours. A peace that is not loud or dramatic, but steady. A peace that does not promise comfort, but promises clarity. And clarity is the beginning of every transformation. When you see yourself clearly, you move through the world with purpose. Morning reflection reminds you that you have a direction. It reminds you that life is not something happening to you, but something unfolding through you. It reminds you that each day is a chance to return to virtue, to realign with your values, to adjust your course with compassion rather than self-criticism. It reminds you that becoming yourself is a daily practice, not a single moment of inspiration. Your best days begin by choosing yourself first. When you start your morning with intention, you stop chasing the day and start leading it. When you start your morning with reflection, you stop drowning in urgency and return to what truly matters. When you start your morning with awareness, you strengthen every part of your emotional and spiritual architecture. You build a steadiness inside you that makes the outside world feel less threatening, less overpowering, less capable of derailing your peace. This is what Stoics understood. The person you become is shaped in the hours no one sees. The disciplines you hold when the world is still sleeping become the armor you carry when the world wakes up. The thoughts you choose at dawn become the choices you make throughout the day, and the choices you make determine the life you build. Start your day by returning to yourself. Everything else becomes easier when you begin from a place of inner alignment. You've just walked through 8 habits that rebuild you from the inside out. Not through motivation, not through validation, but through discipline, clarity, and self-respect. Self-love isn't something you wait to feel. It's something you practice through the choices you make every day. When your actions honor your values, your heart learns to trust you again. You love yourself by living like someone worth loving. Choose one habit and begin today. Protect your mornings, your boundaries, your energy, your truth. Move through the world with intention instead of reaction. Strengthen the foundation inside you so no one else gets to define your worth. Thank you for being here. If this message resonated, comment. I choose myself.